And welcome back to FreightWaves Now on this Friday morning. Time to catch up with CEO of Ocean Audit and our regular ocean expert, Steve Ferreira, on this Friday. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's my honor and pleasure. Hi, Kaylee. Hey, Anthony.
Steve, good morning. Great to have you here as always on our Fridays. Make our Fridays, even though Fridays are bright, a little bit brighter. So we're excited to jump in this conversation with you and kicking it started with some ever forward news. What's going on over there?
Well, I'll tell you, who would have ever thought that we'd have kind of a repeat of the so-called Ever Given incident where the Ever Forward is still stuck. The latest developments is that the Ever Forward Evergreen has declared an insurance term called general average. They're having so much difficulty getting the ship out of there that the salvagers and the salvage costs and all the aftermarket costs will be, pretty extensive. So that means that all the cargo owners on that ship have to put a deposit to secure their cargo. Normally that's secured by insurance and insurance products that many of the importers have. But if you don't have insurance for general average, then it's a cash bond. It's turning into a pretty delicate situation and an unfortunate one for Evergreen because who would have thought that this vessel would take this long to dredge out. So the dredging efforts are still underway. But the big news is that, we have the list right in front of me now of all the major importers on it. We've got Samsung, we've got Medline, we've got Bob's Furniture, Home Depot, Target. Some of these clients have 20 to 30 containers on. So it could be a huge bond in order for them to get their cargo once it's made available.
I feel like we're missing a really good opportunity for a headline, like ever forward, ? More like never forward.
Ever backwards.
Wow. Ever backwards. We've got a lot of stuff to get through today, Steve. So, of course, that's a big one. You've had two tries to refloat it so far, both unsuccessful. Really just kind of a pain for those shippers, as you mentioned. Let's move out to Shanghai, where we've also got some problems going on with clogged ports. We've got vessels sitting in port. We've got two different phases of COVID lockdowns going on. We talked to Eric Kulish yesterday about what this means for air cargo. Let's talk more about what it means for ocean now.
I think you have to look at it that it's like this three-ring circus, right? That is now the left side of that act or that circus is in Shanghai, and let's think that the U.S. is the right-handed ring in that circus, right? And we know that, for example, very few air cargo flights left Shanghai in the last 24, 48 hours, and what we've seen through great APIs and visualizations like marine traffic, we can just see incredible congestion, well over 200 and some odd ships in Shanghai that are struggling, with maneuverability. And those ships are going to come this way from that that left ring to the middle ring to the right ring, which is the U.S. West Coast and the U.S. East Coast. So we're going to have a boatload of problems, pardon the pun. The air cargo situation really puts more and more pressure on the maritime solution as BCOs try to pivot back to a sailable ocean solution. So it's very, very troublesome, very difficult. We are going to get walloped. This is what we've seen in the last couple of months, I believe, in my humble opinion, is going to be child's play. And it's all coming into tune just as we're starting to consider ILWU negotiations. So this is playing, I think, right into the hands of the union and the negotiators on the union side to get the core supply chain continuing to move and not being held up by the offshoots. So you can see here, I just compartmentalized a lot of different subjects around Shanghai, but I think that's the way you have to attack this.
And Steve, the other big headline that really kind of turned a lot of heads yesterday was coming from Restoration Hardware CEO yesterday, talking about the events that's kind of taken place in Russia and Ukraine, how it's impacted his company specifically and his outlook. Any comments or insights on that?
Absolutely. I've always admired RH. I've been involved or engaged. I know their people for a long time. I actually sent a note to their CEO after the call yesterday, Gary Friedman, on a different subject, on a subject related to what he spoke about. But I think what Gary's point was on the RH conference call was that, hey, ocean freight, we went from $2,400 to $4,800 a container. And now, he won't declare what they're paying now on average. But, he's using that as a kind of a lever that says, something has to happen here. But on the same hand, because RH was one of the last companies to declare earnings. More of the full extent of Russia, Ukraine, and some of the side effects of what's happening with inflation are kind of bestowed upon RH's earnings. And Gary had mentioned that there was an immediate kind of drop off in demand once Russia, Ukraine went out. Now, we have a couple things around that, right? Mortgage rates are very high. RH's products are extremely well done, very high end. So I think you have to kind of filter that through the lens. You know, I think Gary went a little off script in terms of really kind of blaming the supply chain. And it probably is true. But on the other hand, I think the Wall Street remarks that everyone's looking at is, does he have something in terms of consumer demand?
I think it's interesting as well because his remarks were kind of taken as this brutal honesty. And I almost feel like it's honesty, but it's honesty that everybody's been talking about, right? Is that I don't see anyone who's sitting here now looking at the future of the freight economy, the future of the ocean shipping economy, and at least the near future saying it's sunshine and roses going into the summer, right? There's a lot of kind of this come to reality that I think the majority of the industry is in right now.
Well, you know, we're starting to see, it's an interesting question or a comment or philosophy. We're starting to see tens, if not a dozen or so complaints in the last couple of weeks to the FMC by beneficial cargo owners saying that, so-and-so line didn't honor their 40-foot container agreement, and they didn't give us container space. And we're seeing a lot of those. But the reality is that for years and years and years, the ocean freight contracting system was broken. There was really no reciprocity for any kind of non-performance, no penalties, and contracts were really very loose in the ocean industry compared to a traditional business contract. And I think BCOs are trying to revisit those days long gone where contracts were managed and operated quite smoothly. And now we're in this container-geddon period where no one really knows what to do because we don't really have performance and enforceable contracting. So I think Gary Friedman's discussion was a little bit of the heart from kind of that comment. If there was more of a plan to make ocean contracts more sustainable and enforceable, maybe we wouldn't be in some of these situations that we're in right now.
And Steve, when we're looking at things domestically on the trucking side, we're seeing rates starting to come down. Potentially, we're seeing contract rates still very much elevated, but volumes are starting to decrease. When we're looking at the ocean shipping side, what are going to be some of the things that we would have to see in order for some of those rates to come down? Or really, with so many containers still active and out there, do you just see that these elevated rates really kind of persisting for the foreseeable future?
Well, it's a great question. I know McKinsey came out with a study, and everyone loves McKinsey, and they said, well, we think that ocean rates could go back to pre-pandemic levels in 6 months, but there was a whole line of laundry lists associated with that. If all the ports are cleaned up, if trucking is solved, if inventory and warehousing is solved. The reality is that McKinsey also said, on the other hand, that they could see a sustainable ocean freight price increase and price sustainability where we are now all the way through 2024. So, I look at that. The McKinsey study was really interesting to me because, Boston Consulting Group, McKinsey, respect the hell out of these guys. And they really couldn't call the ball on where sustainability is on ocean rates. I think that when you look at what RH said, I think you have to really filter that with kind of the special colored glasses because, as I said, RH's products, very high end. They're not the typical material you'd get in a department store or on an e-commerce site. And I do still see the, consumers still seem to have the insatiable demand because the products are coming in. Certainly there's either warehousing space or not warehousing space, but these products are being, put into the supply chain, and the order button still reads green from the crow's nest that I'm sitting in.
Steve, of course, we can't let you go today without talking about the Senate passage of the Ocean Shipping Reform Act. They've got their version of the bill now ready to go, got the House version ready to go into conference and kind of resolve their differences before heading to President Biden's desk. Now that we've got Senate passage, how quickly do you think that this could move on to President Biden? And what types of differences do you think that there need to be resolved between the two versions of the bill?
Well, I think that there's some minor fine tuning that has to take place in terms of, especially around the areas of detention. I think they'll try to hammer that out. I don't see any problem in terms of the House and the Senate version, kind of being this one amalgam that goes to the White House. It'll certainly be rubber stamped, signed. I don't think it's necessarily. I think it's a warning sign out there. I think that be careful what you wish for. We could see more consolidation downstream if this thing gets too out of control and there's more investigatory units within the DOJ and FMC that start taking the new act and really kind of going after the ocean community voraciously. So we'll have to see what kind of filters out of it. But I think there are very few differences between the House and the Senate version that can't be worked out. It's what the populace seems to want. I know the World Shipping Association on the carrier side is favoring a little bit more of the Senate's version in terms of the House version. Makes it a little bit less benign to more benign to the vessel operators. But it's going to be a done deal. It's a done deal to be rubber stamped, and we'll see what happens. But be careful of gifts you wish for.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, thanks so much for joining us this morning. It's always a pleasure. Where can people go if they want to catch the NAV B2B show today?
We'll be right here, 2 p.m., FreightWaves TV, Navigate B2B, and you can always catch it's on any streaming device, FreightWaves TV, Apple, Roku, but look for me right here, 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Navigate B2B.
Also, Steve, can't let you go without a big congratulations on your book hitting that USA bestsellers list. Congrats to that.
Oh, thanks. And by Kaylee, there's a spider behind you.
Oh, no. April Fools.
Have a great one, guys.
All right, Steve, we'll talk to you next week.